let's wait and see if anyone comes in first. Quickly grab and edit this. YouTube Studios. Let's get this done. Is anyone else coming in? Yo, EC03, hello, welcome. Just waiting for some people to come in / set this up. I'll get the ball rolling. Got about an hour so I can talk about what we learned, and apologies for the late stream as well. I thought this showcase started at this time. I was thinking about Lost Records time, the way they were showing that, and have clearly underestimated when it came out, and I didn't realize that that trailer was the full thing that we were meant to see today, which was interesting. That I thought it was going to be something else, but as you will. But let's see if anyone else is here. We've got a couple of people. Hello everyone. So we will start here. Yeah. So the video on demand version for the Lost Records stream is coming. I'll get that out hopefully on the weekend, if not Friday. That's my aim. And I'm going to do this one quickly for like a little bit of an hour maybe, just to talk about what we've seen. As I just kind of really said early on, I didn't realize that that was what we were getting shown at Gamescom. I thought that we were going to be waiting for another like live stream event or something. I've kind of got the times messed up. I was thinking about the Lost Records time. So yeah, I thought we'd just jump on and kind of talk about it. It's just me for this as well. No Adam. So we're going to talk about what we've seen, what we know. It was interesting to see the footage. Again, I kind of expected certain things. Obviously, we're not going to see Chloe Price. We don't know if Chloe Price is actually in the game or not, but I still think she is. But you know, as you will. So cool. We got EC03. Hopefully other people join and let me know if you've got any questions. I can answer them as much as possible as we talk about this. And I'll run through some of the points in the trailer as well that I kind of like looked at as well. And you can let me know if you spotted anything as well. So let me quickly go to screen share because we've got a little feature here in our streaming service devices. I'm going to go to screen share. We've got to the trailer here. So let's just quickly go through certain things. Yeah, so we got the thingy. I think we saw some of this as well, like recently. Some of it seems to be reused footage. It's not mind-blowing, if anything, from what we've seen. Mainly a plot point explanation, if anything. I'm trying to wonder where we got to. There's quite already a lot of reused footage here already. So we've got obviously Max there. Oh, look, we got a cat. The cat is back. I saw someone say that changes, by the way, as well, guys. If you haven't noticed, I'm trying to just pause it. The photo on the bed changes here. Oh, this isn't a thing on my way. The photo on the bed changes. So it's got Chloe as a Polaroid in one version, and it's got the one of Max and Chloe from away, which is quite cool as a little thing that you'll notice as well if you picked up on the stream. So that's that. I'm just going to leave it over here quickly. So yeah, the actual Polaroid changes on the bed, which is quite interesting as well. It kind of establishes our timeline. And again, as well, better version of quality will come out at a later date as well. If you do want to watch that of this stream, currently getting my internet fixed, if anything, so don't worry about So yeah, again, not seeing this is the interesting part. So we're starting to see more. This was more of an exposition on the powers. It's almost very similar. It's kind of like eerily similar to seeing what we saw at Lost Records at Gamescom, where it's kind of like a gameplay reveal slash, you know, how the game kind of works. We kind of know that obviously Max has the power of shift as well, which is kind of like shift, split. Is it shift, split? Let me quickly double check that. Can't remember what it was called. I'm still trying to get. Sorry about this. Split. I think it's shift actually. Yeah, it's shift. So her power's shift, and then she has the other one, which is like I think it's like a pulse or something, which kind of like finds the trigger points for, you know, where we're looking, if anything. So yeah, that's that. I'm just quickly just double checking as well before I carry on. I just want to see if the actual live chat is still loading, because on the minute my screen is not. I'm just checking if anyone else has actually messaged anything. No, they haven't. So yeah, in this trailer at this point, yeah, we got an idea of how the power works. Obviously, there's one of the characters that's there. I can't actually remember what her name is. If we had it revealed, there was a reveal. Actually, I can't remember what her name is. So we actually have a bit of an idea of, like, you know, a sense. I think I kind of tweeted a graphic off from Jonathan Starter, who's the game director. I'll show it in a little bit as well, because it kind of gives you an idea that the game doesn't give you kind of like a choice to obviously rewind time, because that's gone, if anything, but more so you get a chance to see what's happening in the alternative universe as they've kind of like angled it. It's like you can kind of catch up on what's been shown there, and that in itself is quite, it's an interesting approach. I've seen some people are already being like, I don't want to see what my other choices were, but I think they've kind of done it as a kind of way of kind of like a gotcha moment or something, because again, like, you don't have Max's rewind power. It doesn't exist in this game. It's kind of obviously changed quite heavily. So let's quickly just carry on here. But yeah, it's interesting to see the power though. You know, if it's done right, it could be something quite cool in this game. So yeah, there we go. And obviously we've got the reveal. So it's two sides. In one timeline, Moses is talking to another character. In this one, he's just building a gingerbread house. It looks like he's building a gingerbread house. So in the trailer as well, I'm going to point this out as well, because some people didn't pick it up. Hannah Tell's talking at this point, and she does actually say that this character is called Alderman. So that is the character's name. I'll actually turn the audio on as well, so you guys can hear it. Let me quickly.
In the other timeline appear as dimensional echoes, allowing Max to avoid watchful eyes when shifting.
Good thing I can keep an eye on Alderman from here.
So yeah, we got like a little bit of a confirmation there that character is called Alderman. He is the cop. He's the kind of guy that's on Max's tail, essentially. He's kind of like, you know, he's just kind of like thinking that she's probably the killer. So at least we got confirmation that character's name is Alderman. And then obviously, again, we get to see the power of Max here, which is her lovely new power of shift, which is quite cool. And then kind of explained as well, these like little pulse balls as well, where you can basically see the point of like where you can create the tear or something. I think, like, yeah, I'm still trying to get used to the power name. The power, if anything, it's just, it seems a little bit long-winded, but yeah, basically it's like a kind of a pulsing point that you can kind of tear open into another tear. So that's quite interesting. And it gives you a bit of an expose here as well with Moses as well, where, you know, you do this little Allen key mission. I think we tweeted a couple of pictures off, if anything, from yesterday. So again, you detect your shift place with a pulse, you go over to it, and then here we go, we just split. So that is interesting. It's an interesting idea. It's something definitely interesting for Life is Strange. I'm going to play the audio in a second for this, because this is very much, at least this reassures me, if anything, more than it feels, that at least Hannah Tell's comedy is there.
The same spot.
So I found this guy named Alan, but he didn't know anything about a wrench.
No, Max, not literally Alan. It's... Oh. You are a lifesaver, Max.
Yeah, kudos to the writing team and the Deck 9 team there as well. At least, like, you know, I'm seeing my Max have a little bit of, like, you know, the shades of old Max in terms of like personality and character. Those are the kind of things I think will really carry this game for me, in my personal opinion. I'm really excited to see more of that. So, you know, I did enjoy seeing Hannah deliver that line. She's obviously an element. And obviously, here we go. So we've got Loretta Rice. This is interesting as well. She looks a little bit different. Let me know if you actually do think she looks a little bit different, because I thought she actually looked, you know, she just looked a little bit different, in my opinion. Like, I just couldn't tell. I don't know if it was like early footage they must have used for double exposure's reveal trailer at the showcase back in June, I believe it was. But she does look a lot different. The facial animations are clean on this game. Like, I have to say, man, yeah, people can say whatever they want about this game and criticize it, etc. But Deck Nine's motion capture is unbelievable. Like, they've obviously spent so much money developing that motion capture technology, and they're just doing so clean. The animations and facial features look insane. I mean, like, you know, I've seen people criticize some of the designs of the characters, but at least when the actors are acting, you can kind of see their facial animations just like really light up in performances. So it's interesting here. But this is basically an explanation as well. So let me quickly just close this down. I'll come back to this in a second. Stop sharing. So I'm going back to there. So yeah, this is basically an explanation, if anything, where they were talking about each character has their own kind of like alternative, obviously, self, and then in itself, Max can interact with them, but then if you mistaken, for example, in a timeline, I'll show you the clip in a second with Loretta, you know, Max will react knowing that she's in the wrong timeline, but then also like characters can be a bit different in terms of personality. So it's giving a bit more substance. And obviously we know this is a metaverse game, guys. Like, you have to establish that this is a metaverse game. You have to really just acknowledge that, accept it, and then just play it for what it is for that. Because like Square Enix has done it with Final Fantasy VII. Again, I've said it repeatedly. Go and play that game, or watch some trailers, or watch footage, watch essays, because you'll get a bit more of an explanation for it, if anything. But if anything, that kind of like just, you know, that sums it up for me, where it's like, you know, it's going to be a metaverse style game. You are going to see different timelines, different characters, different interactions. It's going to jar some people. I think in itself, metaverse writing is so difficult. I think people have kind of become a little bit like dazed by it because of the stuff that's happened in Marvel and the Avengers and etc. I think like it's been done to death a little bit, but it could create some interesting things in this game. I am interested to see where it goes with, in terms of like at least plot points and story points as well, and maybe like some even throwbacks to the game. But let me just quickly just jump back to I'm going to jump back to the trailer quickly just for you guys to see. Right, so obviously we've seen some audio as well from the actor as well. I believe that's Ashley. I can't remember the last name, Ashley Hinman or something like that. Hello Delaney, how are you? Hope you're well. You got a message here. I'm cautiously optimistic about this game, but seeing this has given me a bit more confidence that the power mechanic is going to be fleshed out. I really hope Deck 9 can pull it off. Yeah, it will be interesting, that actually. A fair point as well. I think like the power mechanic kind of has reassured me a little bit that they are, you know, they have something there that they can kind of really grasp on with the game. I think that is going to be the crux of a Life is Strange game. It has really always been the powers, barring maybe 2. You can make a different argument for that, even True Colors as well. First Life is Strange game really relied on its power, but this one has like, you know, has a bit of a different feel to it. It feels like powers are going to be really heavily incorporated in it. And I think, like I kind of said before, I felt like True Colors was a bit of a tech demo for the empathy and other features. It seems like it's finally fleshed out in this game, which is kind of like giving it a full kind of like position to go off. So yeah, it's interesting here because obviously this is kind of like they show you in this trailer here where it's like you're talking to a Loretta from a different one. By the way, guys, working on your podcast, I wonder if she listens to StrangeCast. I wonder if that's a little nod to us. I'm going to take it. There's no confirmation, there's no nothing from that, but I think that's a nod to our podcast, StrangeCast. I'm going to take that all day long. And obviously here's the choice that we actually go with the game, which is how's Reggie doing? I don't know who Reggie is yet. We might see him in the trailer. I can't actually know who he is, but again, this is where Max's fault. Actually, give me a second. I'm playing this for people who haven't seen it.
Losing track of which timeline you're in? Well, Max herself may get confused too.
Have you talked to Reggie since yesterday?
Reggie?
Crap! Wrong Loretta, Max.
Yeah, so there's the establishing point where we basically get the focus that, you know, you can easily mess up the timelines as you can see the next image loads up, actually, you know, how timelines work. I'm going to quickly pull that up whilst I talk, actually. It'll just be easier. So there it is. So yeah, like we basically have a full establishment here of like, you know, timelines going in itself. Let me quickly highlight this point. The fact that they are kind of like acknowledging the fact that you can go into the wrong timeline and then ask the wrong question and there's a dialogue line for it. It makes me feel a little bit more reassured in terms of there's more dialogue writing. It feels like there's going to be more branches here that we're really going to follow in the story. So that is in itself like, you know, something that is kind of like, you know, I'm happy for, and I'm kind of like interested to see again where that goes. I think there's quite a lot of potential, but again, it depends on the scope of the game, depends on what direction they're going to go with the game. Like, you know, you are playing with two timelines here. They do seem to converge, though. That's the thing. It's like Emma Vicelli's comics. It literally feels like a carbon copy of this game, where it's like they're taking so many elements that worked in the comics and they're trying to incorporate into a Life is Strange actual game, if anything. But yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested about Loretta Rice as well. It's an interesting character, that even her voice as well. If I was like one of those people, I don't know, it just sounded like Kylie at one point. But you know, you can always hear things. I remember when I watched Mixtapes trailer, I thought Katie Bence was in it. I even tweeted, I was like, Katie, is that you? I was like, I'm convinced. I was like sitting at home watching it. I was like, this trailer's vibing. I was like, that's Katie Bence's voice. And she's like, nope, it's not me. And I'm like, oh, I'm very surprised with that. I thought I completely got that on point. So yeah. We got another message here. We got EatCO3. I wonder what the consequences are for messing up. Yeah, that would be interesting. I do wonder what happens if you do mess up in the timelines. I think there's going to be minor choices. I think, again, like there's a graphic with Jonathan. I'll pull it up in a little bit so we can kind of look at it. They do kind of suggest that you'll see what happens if you mess up as well. I think it's going to be minor in certain circumstances. I don't think it's going to be as substantial because, like, and this isn't even a knock on Life is Strange, Double Exposure or anything. This is just episodic gaming in general. There's always an illusion of choice. There's like 2 or 3 major impact scenarios, you know, and then after that, everything's like an illusion of choice. It's very incremental, minor details that get actually impacting the story. So I don't think, like, you know, that it's going to be something massively that's going to change, like, you know, be mind-blowing. Maybe there's 1 or 2 that is like that, where you basically, if you do change it, then it changes the complete trajectory of like maybe the story or something. But I think, personally speaking, it's going to be minor, if anything. I think it'll be like you maybe like change relationships, or then you might like lose a couple of details of who the killer is or trying to suss them out, etc. It will be interesting. It'll be interesting if even the game gets to the culmination where it's like it's kind of like a finger point, if anything, at the end of the game, where it's like the killer is in the room with like 5 or 6 people. You have to actually point them out and be like, that is the killer. And that could be an interesting like approach, if anything, where it's just like, that's the killer. Oh dear, like, you know, like, and if you haven't got all the information, then you could finger point the wrong person. And I think that's not what we want to do, if anything, in this game. So let's continue. Yeah. So we got this here, which explains how the timelines work, if anything. We have an explanation that in the actual environments as well, you'll see where it's like one where she's alive. They're calling it living, and thingy one as well. And as I said, I think like they say here, where it's like it's more Christmassy, it's more vibey when in the timeline where Safi is alive, and then obviously in the timeline where Safi isn't alive, then you're going to have a bit of a different look to it. I believe this is a snapping turtle as well that they place as well. So again, we have this here, which is Max looking for stuff. We have, I believe this is Gwen as well. Gwen got a bit of a different outfit. I'm going to call it Gwen now for it. But Gwen is looking hella sus, guys. Hella sus for me. So yeah, that's that. Let me just quickly double check something quickly with you guys before I continue on this video. I'm just double checking something. Yeah, okay. Sorry. I was just double checking something. If you've got any more questions, guys, just drop them in, or if you've got anything else to add, let me know. We've got a couple of people watching. Thank you for watching as well. If you are enjoying this, please do drop a like as well. It does help as well. We're a very small channel, so any visibility you can give me is absolutely fantastic. So yeah, we've got this character here. That's interesting. I do wonder where the mocap's going with that. Just a minor detail. Go back to it actually. With go back here. So I'm going to stop sharing. That's an interesting detail, though, that he's doing that. That seems like an improvement on their mocap, because, like, obviously the True Colors one, that was the first stepping stone for their mocap test, their new studio that they had there. And obviously I spoke to Erica Mori, spoke to loads of actors from True Colors, and even like about the little things that Web Pickers Guild did, their studio motion capture director. He's also the co-director on Before the Storm. And it was like, you know, they're basically like, I think Erica Mori said that she was trying to play with her ring at one point, see if it came through a motion capture, and it didn't. So they kind of scrapped the idea, but it's like she did like do little things with hand movements, and obviously Hannah's mannerisms are really important for this game, and especially for Max Caulfield. So it'll definitely be interesting to see that. But I think like in itself, just the subtleness of Moses's hand, that's in the context of the scene, I do find the mocap quite fascinating. It seems to have really, really advanced, if anything. So again, kudos to the Deck 9 team there. So let's quickly just jump back into screen sharing. We'll go continue the trailer as well here. There is. That's full screen. So again, more scenes with Moses here. again, we've seen some of this. This is where like the character starts to feel a little bit different. What it explains to you is like you can basically like suss out something from another character from another timeline and then impact it. This character is called Lucas. We worked this out from another one. There was a briefcase where it says Lucas's briefcase and it had his silhouette, but this is Lucas as a character. Currently got his AirPods plugged in like me. He's talking to Max, just ignoring her. This guy's hella sus. Guys, this guy's hella sus for me. I don't know if this is red herring or whatever, but I don't trust this guy. I do not trust him for one moment. He is just being weird, if anything. And I'm not keen on that. But yeah, he's a new character that's been introduced. We have no name, if anything. Yep. So, you know, as you will, but an interesting character. We're seeing more characters appear. And yeah, let's just continue on, if anything. I'm just trying to keep going through here and see if we can find anything else. I can't actually remember if look at that. Let me go back, guys. Hang on a minute. I love this screen sharing feature I can use. Look at that. Come on. Come on. He is the killer. He is the killer. He must be. I don't trust anyone with a smile like that. That is. Do you know when people say it's like Sims characters? I kind of see it with stuff like that. It's very uncanny valley, if anything. It's very uncanny valley. Let's just continue either way. That's cool, by the way. The artwork is beautiful. The artwork is beautiful in this game. I'm all for that. I think that needs to have more of appreciation. I'm a big fan of that. Let's continue on here. Max looking pretty spooked. This is Hannah Tell's speech. Let's go. Let's watch this. Let's appreciate. This is why I said to you guys, Hannah Tell's going to win a BAFTA. I'm going to play this for you in full. If you haven't seen it, you probably have. But
Unravel those secrets and the determination to reach the truth at all costs.
Everybody's talking about her like she had a heart attack or a car accident. But she was murdered. Someone murdered her. I don't know how we're expected to just be okay with that.
Max has never.
guys, Hannah's cooking. She is cooking. I've said this repeatedly. BAFTA 2025. It's got her name on it. She is just in absolutely top form. She's in like absolutely top form. That was an outstanding. I think she's going to be. I think she's going to deliver some really seminal moments in this. Delaney definitely in the kind of a killer. Yeah, I think it's a little bit. I just think it's a little bit sauce, if anything. I just don't. I don't trust someone who like acts like that or has like that kind of like smirkiness. I mean, I don't know. It's just it looks a little bit like that. But anyway, on Hannah's thing, just unbelievable delivery. If anything, let's just continue. I don't think there's much more in that trailer, if anything. So let me just jump back to the trailer. Oh no, I'm just giving you my screenshot of my own thingy here. Let me just quickly end that. Apologies about that. I need to watch that because like for some reason this feature and the new software doesn't let you actually stream to YouTube where you can see the live chat, and it's quite irritating. So let me just quickly again jump this on here. Oh god, right, screen share. That's the trailer. So, oh, we got Delaney. As someone who lives in New England, they really nailed the vibes. I got to say, really. Oh, you live in New England? That's really interesting. I do find that interesting. I again, like I always have to rely on Adam for like StrangeCast podcasts. Give me any kind of like America geographical kind of landscape. I think he was really hard hitting on the new StrangeCast. If you haven't watched that, you can watch that now. It's live as well on all podcast services and YouTube. But he's very much like that with like heat waves. He gets like he wasn't even getting political. He was just basically like making a point of like that the vibe isn't right in like heat waves. So it's interesting that you say that, Diane, as well. It's quite interesting that at least they've really kind of like hit that, if anything. So I do appreciate hearing that.
Never been so powerful.
Let me just quickly. Oh, actually, here we go. This is a big scene. Actually, let's turn this off for a second. So this seems. Let's quickly watch it. And Max, boom, she opens that up. So that was kind of like the big defining scene, if anything, where it's like actually this is where Max tries to rewind time. So she actually uses the power. It's not all. You know, is that right where Safi's died? If anything, I can't obviously tell. It's like it's obviously in the snow and outside, but there she tries to rewind time, fails. Her power just goes into another hand, and then it seems to be like almost like we're going to transfer the power into both hands, and it's going to create these alternate timelines. So that is the kind of point that explores it. So we find out a realization that that's where Max moves to her new powers. I'm intrigued by the look. Like, let me just quickly end that. I'm so torn with this. I'm so torn with not even just the power, like, you know, the evolution of the power, because like Emma Vicelli does that in the comic series. She evolves Max's power over time. It's like, here's pocket time, and she like evolves certain elements of her powers, but in itself, the comics established that neither ending is canon. And then also on top of that, it basically merges two timelines, which is like, it gets away with what it's doing with this one. For example, we're starting off with a Max who basically will now rewind time irrespective of what happens. Like, irrespective of choosing the Bay or not the Bay, you're still going to use Max's power. And that, for me, I just don't know if I can agree with Max doing that, because Max's entire point by the end of the first game, she basically, like, if you choose the ending, which is save you know, if you sacrifice Arcadia Bay, you save Arcadia Bay, you sacrifice Chloe. Max comes to a realization that you have to stop doing what she's doing because she's messing up time, she's messing up people's lives. It's chaos theory, it's all the other things, it's the butterfly effect. She kind of comes to acceptance with that. She accepts the fact that she spent these wonderful days with Chloe when she got back to Arcadia Bay. She makes a peace and she moves on from that. And you can see it in the funeral scene, like, that's why she smiles at it. That's why, for example, when we talked about the remastered collection, and then Michelle was tweeting about it as well, and he said, you know, you know, when they added the kind of like the fact that she cries as well, and he's like, we didn't do that because obviously at that point the entire thing changes for Max, where she's just come to terms with it. She was not going to cry because it's kind of that acceptance of, you know, we made the decision and that is the decision. So when your character walks back on these elements, that's my biggest irk at the minute, more so of anything else with double exposure. I'm interested. I'm not as, I think the marketing's been terrible. I think it's been laced in really poor advertising from Square Enix. Like, you can see that with Lost Records. Last couple of days, Lost Records has been like smoking fire from people. And I'm not even doing it as like kind of like a tear down thing. I'm talking about just from a marketing perspective. They've nailed the marketing. They've made it very indie vibey. They've kind of resonated with fans. They're drawing people in. Life is Strange Double Exposure is drawing people in from being a Life is Strange fan. It doesn't seem to really connect with you, and I think that's the issue with what Square Enix is doing at the minute. So in itself, in the grander scheme of things, that's my issue with where Max is trying to rewind time. That it just, I don't know, man. You guys are watching as well. Let me know what you think about that, because I just don't know how I feel about that. Let me just pull it back up again as well. That's my stream. This is obviously this is the big kind of reveal. The entire trailer is about powers unveiled, so basically like having a focus on that. But I just don't know how I feel about like her using her powers. It just, and then also as well for the fact that you're using your powers for someone who isn't Chloe as well. It's like, you know, Safi, why would you not use your powers to keep Chloe in this endless timeline of like avoiding death, but you're going to do it to save Safi instead? It just seems, and even if it's reactionary, it makes no sense being reactionary for 10 years. Anything could have happened in between 10 years, if anything. I'm just a little bit torn with it. Like this game, for example, and just to do a bit of revisionist, for example, even if they ripped off the first game in terms of like Chloe gets shot here, for example, and she dies, then you have more than enough excuse, for example, to start messing around with timelines and stuff, because she would use her powers. If this was Safi, if instead of Safi, this was Chloe who gets shot in like cold blood or whatever else it is, this would make sense. This, like, even if you're going to try and establish both endings, this scene would make perfect sense, because like she would rewind time for Chloe for that as well, because, you know, but again, yeah, it's a, like, I think, guys, as well, I think if anything as well, one thing to establish as well, the fact that you can split timelines, I'm convinced Chloe Price is in the game. She's going to be in this game. I've said it before. Like, the fact that she can do that, there's two timelines of characters. Like, that's going to be a different timeline with different characters. Like, I see her being in this game in some way, shape, or form. She'll be in flashbacks. She'll be in all kinds of things. She'll probably make an appearance as well. I expect her to make an appearance in the game. I think like that's my thing, my takeaway from that. If anything, I'm trying to pull up this graphic from Jonathan as well that we made as well. It's from a games, so they've been doing some interviews as well, just very brief interviews. I want to pull it up here before I read that as well. So we've got Delaney as well. I agree with you. It's like they're retconning the development of Max. Went through Life is Strange. Another big thing for me is when they're marketing as a mystery game, where Life is Strange coming out. You literally, that is like, I've said that, Delaney, like every single podcast episode, conversation, like everything. That is like my thing. Life is Strange isn't a murder mystery game. It's not even like a the what is happening to Rachel Amber. Even Chloe's Price's connection in that game is just basically she's connected to Max essentially, in the sense of that is the coming of age story. It's the coming of age of Max's story. They said it repeatedly, don't nod, in the marketing in 2015. It's a coming of age story. It is about Max evolving as a human being. It's about her entire thing that she's going back to Arcadia Bay. She's going through all these experiences. The focus is always on Max. No matter what else is happening in the first Life is Strange game, it's always on her. However, in this game, my early thing is that basically they're not doing a coming of age game. They're doing a supernatural murder mystery game. Supernatural. Remember that. They keep focusing on the supernatural part. It's not just on like they're just doing it by accident. It's intentional. That's my issue. And I agree with you as well, because they're retconning Max's development, because that's, I can't really say Oxenfree, it's a spoil, but like, Oxenfree is this thing. We had this in a conversation, me and Adam, on the YouTube channel. You can check it out. But it's like, basically, the problem is with Max is that you put yourself onto that character. So she's such a neutral character that anyone can be her, even though she's this young girl. Basically, anyone can associate themselves with it, whether they're like, for example, autistic or ADHD or like asexual. You can make Max your own character. That's why people really resonate with her. But ultimately, if you're not establishing one ending and then kind of going off that, you're in a bit of trouble, because you're going to be pandering to both sides. And unless you do what Emma Vicelli did, and that having read all the comics and also interviewing her, it makes sense, because you're basically going to have to go down one timeline, create another timeline, and then start mashing things, because basically you start appeasing both sides. That's why when people keep getting really dramatic about Chloe not being in the game, I'm sitting here really chilled, because like I would be more shocked if she isn't in the game, if anything. I see this as a soft reboot where Max could be at the helm of 2 more Life is Strange games, but I think they're going in a different direction, and I think that Chloe will only be an extension in certain parts. I think they're changing the narrative that they're going forward. Again, Delaney as well feels like they had a story and needed a protagonist, so they just plugged it in at the fan favorite Max rather than building a story around it. Exactly, that's the thing as well. I said Delaney as well. Like, for me, until someone can convince me otherwise, Max can be pulled out of this game. It still works. And to argue that point as well, Max can't be pulled from the first game, because it doesn't work otherwise. You could potentially replace her with someone else and make it a coming of age story. Fair, you can make that argument, but she's central to the story. The game doesn't work. It's like those characters, like when a character is that centralized to the story, everything is built around them. All the plot points, like this, at this point, it screams like it's a murder mystery game. So basically, the entire point is that you expose what's happened to the murder of Safi. And it feels like Safi is more central to the game than Max a little bit, because you could replace her, obviously, but she's like a dead body. She's like someone that you have to uncover her crime. And I'm kind of just not sure that this, it just seems like a marketing thing. Let's bring Max back. Let's bring out the helm. But they're missing that coming of age story. They're missing agency with her. They're not acknowledging, for example, she's not used her powers for this long. Why have your character not used your powers for 10 years or so? And what? She's just going to use it now out of the blue? Even if someone dies, she's just going to like completely disregard her morals, her values? It dumbs down your character. That's my argument with it. That's why I keep talking about it, on the podcast and the conversations we have, Adam. It's like you're dumbing down your character. And my greatest reference point, if anything, is for example, The Dark Knight Rises. Watch that film again. The first 30 minutes of that film, Christopher Nolan's character, Bruce Wayne, is moping around. He's moping around, and he's also he's inherently accepted. He's like, I'm done. He's like, I've lost the love of my life. He's not been Batman for years. They established about that there's a time jump as well. He's aging. He's slowing down. He's basically not got the spirit to do what he needs to do. When he puts the suit back on, whatever you think about The Dark Knight Rises, they've established that the character has basically said there's purpose for him to do it again, because he's basically taken a vow of silence not to put the costume on because of what Batman has become, and basically become a fallen martyr, if anything, to kind of basically has become a villain, if anything, to prompt up this fallen martyr idol, which is Harvey Dent. But that's the thing with Max. It's like, she doesn't have that agency yet for me, where it's like you had an explanation for it, for example, of like why she used her powers, and that is like the big difficulty at the minute for me to accept. Let me quickly just go to screen share again, guys, and I'll show you this graphic that we made with Jonathan. There's a big interview with him and I think one of the writers as well. And let us know what you think about the graphic as well. This is a new experiment I'm trying as well. It seems to have gone down well with people. It's like a nice little visual feed rather than just reading big interviews and stuff. So yeah, this was Jonathan Stauder, who's the game director of Life is Strange Double Exposure. He's at Gamescom. Is he at Gamescom directly? I don't know if he's actually at Gamescom. I think he is actually. I think he's at Gamescom. He's speaking to the press. He's speaking to Games Radar here. And basically, he establishes what we're going to see in the game, which is this what could have been timeline. So you have two timelines running. You have one main timeline, which is the one where Safi is dead. Max is trying to, is coming to terms with the fact that she's dead, but then also can rip a new timeline open. And in that timeline, she can find things that aren't in her other timeline. And she's also going to try and figure out what's happened to Safi and why Safi has died as well. I think that the killer can jump between both timelines, apparently. So that is also something else with it. But he's kind of explained it as this what could have been timeline. So this is from the quote here. He support most of the choices are character based, and they'll determine how your relationship with each character moves forward. Then you can go to other timeline and usually get a window into either the road not taken or how things are playing out differently there. So you have a more immediate little examination of those effects because they very much right in your face. So it's basically what they've established in this, and I'm going to get rid of it as well quickly. What they've established is that you basically play the game as it is. You can't rewind time. Obviously, Max has lost the power. So whatever the choice is, it's the choice. That's the definitive choice. So it eliminates that element of the rewind mechanic. Rewind, there's a choice we're picking. They've got rid of that. But in return, though, and I don't know how I feel about this, you basically get to see the outcome of the other choice if you didn't do it. Like, it'll give you a preview kind of window thing, like a what could have been, what if timeline, if anything, fittingly, what if, like a what if timeline, on the other side. I'm not too sure how I feel about that at the minute. I'm open-minded. I know some people have shut it down completely. I get why people have shut it down completely, because it kind of makes almost little to no sense of like giving people that perspective and then not letting them go down that route, because that's obviously what Life is Strange 1 was like. It was basically you could pick a choice, rewind, pick a choice, rewind, and then ultimately you can just decide whichever one you want and then you go from there. But this still doesn't seem, unless it's part of a bigger part of the plot point or something. Obviously, it's again like Max's powers evolve. It seems like they keep evolving, if anything. I'm kind of interested by like that kind of like implication, because that kind of goes back to, I think it's earlier on as well. I think that goes back to EC03's message, which is I wonder what the consequences for messing up is. That could potentially be why they've done it, where it's like that what could have been timeline. It kind of explains to you, hey, actually, this is what's happened because you've messed up. And it maybe they're doing it because they basically want you to kind of feel a little bit nervous when you do it. So it's like that kind of like little bit of nervous experience about the fact that you've made the wrong choice, and now you kind of have to think more carefully going forward. I think maybe that's potentially it. Maybe it's like a reference point that you see like the killer walk through another part of the scene because you've like not been paying attention. Potentially that. So let's have a look here. EC03, Batmax confirmed. Potentially, I'm all that. Jace, hello, Jace. How are you? Hope you're well. Hi, everyone. So I got some spicy theories about the trailer and games so far. Please share. We are here for that. EC03, we got don't see the point of seeing something you can't do anything about. Yeah, unless they're basically trying to raise the anxiety or something that basically you could watch in that other timeline and there's like a goodie that you missed or something, and the game continues and it's like, ugh. And I think again, like my theory would be interesting, where it's like if you basically get to the end of the game and there's they almost do like a True Color style where all these characters in the room, and it's like that Jed moment, but instead it's actually a bunch of characters and you have to work out the killer's identity, and you've been collecting all the information from start to finish. You've been collecting it, and it will show the solution. It's almost like Detroit Become Human, very much like that hostage sequence where it's like you collect the evidence, you collect the data, and then from there you can kind of like change the conversation, the pathway. So potentially, I don't know what they're kind of going with that. So it will be interesting to see. I'm not going to shoot it down completely. I get where people kind of come a little bit like, it's like, what does it achieve? So, and then that is ultimately the big thing. It's like, what does it achieve, if anything? That's the ultimate thing with any game, video game, TV, film, book, anything you read. It's like you always ask the question like, why is this happening? Why is that happening? And I think those are the kind of questions we ask about double exposure at the minute. But it has been interesting to see the power so far. Matt4541, hello Matt, hope you're doing well. It looks like Deck 9 is taking some big risks and it's got a lot of people on edge. Hopefully will pay off in the end. Again, yeah, fair enough, because I've said this as well. Like, I'm not going to sit here and someone starts tweeting me something like, oh, you're being overly critical and oh, look at the market, it was great. I'm hope they prove me wrong. I hope they prove me wrong. I know that some of their developers are really talented. Like I've had the wonderful experience of talking to some of them on this channel. Their studio is talented. Like Adam has always said, like he'd love to see a IP from Deck 9, original IP, because they could do it. It feels like, for example, they wanted to do this with Life is Strange, where they could make it their own thing. It just feels like the publisher overlord has got its grip on this game, because every other angle I watch from a perspective, I just watch it from thinking that feels like Square Enix, that feels like Square Enix, that feels like Deck 9, and I kind of like that, and it's interesting. That feels like Square Enix, and I'm a bit like, I'm a little bit on edge with that. So let me just quickly pull that graphic up again, guys, as well for you guys, if you have just joined as well, so you can see it. Let me know what you think about these graphics as well. As I said, like I've kind of like just trying experimenting, because I'm trying to build up the social media presence of our page. But yeah, this is from Jonathan Stauder. He was basically explaining that two timeline, that the fact that you basically we have one timeline, we can jump into the other timeline. When we jump back into the other timeline, our main timeline, when we jump back into our main timeline, you basically can see what's happened in the other timeline in terms of like a what could have been, something that you missed. I think he's basically alluding to that, if anything, in the trailer where he's basically saying, in the interview where he's saying that you could get to the point where you do something, it's not necessarily incremental, but it could be like a bit little hidden detail you've missed or something, which is kind of like giving you a thing that you need to kind of be a bit more aware and alert to your environment. That would be interesting, because it would play a bit more into something that we could kind of work with, if anything. So I'm quite intrigued by that. So let me quickly just close that, see if we've got any more messages here as well. And if you are new here as well, guys, do drop a like on the video. Again, it helps support the channel. I have one person who seems to dislike every video I post. I don't know why, but it's a level of pettiness I don't aspire to, if anything. Let me quickly just go back to the trailer. I'm going to go back to Loretta Rice as well. I think Loretta Rice is very interesting. A little bit sauce, but I do like the character. I think it's an interesting character, so long as they execute it right. I think there's a lot of intrigue with her. I do hope her podcast is in the episodes, like if in the game. So let me just play it again for you guys as well. You can hear her speak as well.
If you're worried about losing track of which timeline you're in, well, Max herself may get confused too.
Have you talked to Reggie since yesterday?
Reggie?
Crap. Wrong.
It sounds like Kylie. It doesn't sound like Kylie, but like you could easily mistake it for her. Like it just sounds eerily similar. I think her design's intentional as well. I think they're doing that on purpose to make her look similar to Rachel Amber. I think they're trying to make her a shade of Life is Strange characters that people really like an original incarnation of a Rachel Amber-esque character. But again, very different though as well. Working on your podcast, I think that's an infusion of me and Adam in this game. I think she's definitely embodying our podcast traits. Hopefully she's going to bring it. I want them to do I hope there's a podcast in the game. I know that if you played Spider-Man, for example, and you play Spider-Man Miles Morales as well as Spider-Man 2, the podcast feature, the J. Jonah Jameson's one, for me, were outstanding. I love that. It was just such a funny thing to add, and they really, really incorporated like a modern day element into the actual game, which is quite cool. But yeah, Loretta Rice is really interesting. I do like, she obviously seems to come across like this, almost like a student reporter, if anything, at Caledon University. So it's like she's almost like this investigative person who's going to kind of like pop up around and stuff. And I hope hopefully they do have the podcast. I really do hope that they have incorporated that as a story dynamic, because it would just be quite a nice feature where she just pops up with like a small mini episode, if anything. So let me quickly just stop sharing that as well. I think we've got another message here. Ezio Brew got, I think it's Square Enix disliking. Yeah, maybe. I also have a theory it's all Adam from the alternative timeline. I think it could also be him from an alternative timeline dropping dislikes and never know likes. It's like Delaney as well. You got, honestly, I feel like it's going to unexpectedly buy Deck 9's best game. It's sad they're stuck under Square's thumb, because I think this is be that hard actually. I think this wasn't a Max game. It could be much better. I think Delaney again, like I think this is why, for example, I sit there and I feel so sorry for Deck 9, like the criticisms they get, people like just leveling them and hitting them. Like, look, I know that Life is Strange is a Don't-Nod game. I know it was created from Don't-Nod. I really admire Luc Michel, Jean-Luc. I admire all those developers. I adore what they do with their work. But it's like, you know, there's also really talented people at Deck Nine as well, and they're trying their best in different incarnations. I think every game that I've seen so far, barring probably Before the Storm and mainly obviously True Colors, it's like it just feels like Square's got its grip on it. It feels like it's just extending its grip, and it's like just give them a free. Like if you want to extend the grip, do it after they've messed up or something. But it seems like, if anything, it seems like they could do something which is quite a lot of potential, and it could potentially be a game that, like, I hope it succeeds. I hope it has a massive success and it proves everyone wrong, and it's like people really enjoy it. It keeps Life is Strange, the IP, going strong and stuff. But it's just hard to tell with like where Square Enix are doing it. They just have caused like a ruckus in the marketing where it's like I just don't think that they could have. I just don't think they've handled it as well as they should have done. If anything, like I'm not a brand manager, I'm not PR, but I worked in journalism enough to know where PR and branding is just, it could be sent a bit better as a message. I used to get them all the time with people trying to like shovel PR down my throat with like getting articles written, but you need to kind of get a good pitch, if anything. And it feels like, yeah, it feels like Max is just kind of, it feels like they had a story. It feels like they had an idea. It feels like this was an original idea in terms of like, you know, double exposure as a game, a concept, everything else with it. But then it feels like Square Enix was like, put Max in it and put this power in it, put that in it. It's like, oh, Emma Vicelli's comics good, so we're going to put this feature in it. And it just feels like it's almost like ham-fisted a lot of things, which is like destroyed creativity, if anything. So yeah, that's interesting. So I think we're going to wrap it up here. I'm going to try and keep it under an hour, if anything. But it was an interesting trailer. It was interesting to see the powers and see how things go out of it. I think it's giving me a bit more meat as well as kind of bounce off in terms of like content as well, just to kind of like see where Life is Strange is going. Again, guys, as well, if you are getting in here as well, just drop one like on this video. It really does help. I know a couple of people are watching this, so thank you for joining us as well. It's really nice to catch up with you, and it's nice to have done a second one in a very short space of time. Obviously, we did the Lost Records one. So just quick update as well. The VOD, the VOD version of Lost Records' live stream will go onto the channel, hopefully tomorrow, if not tomorrow, Saturday or Sunday. And then this will also go on as a VOD as well. It'll be a better, higher quality version, so you can watch it again if you do want to watch it. StrangeCast is available on all podcast services at the minute as well. The new episode just dropped yesterday, dropped very late, but it is available. It's on YouTube. It's available on podcast services, so go and check that out. Stay tuned as obviously as well, because Lost Records Journal returns next week. That'll be on the Wednesday. I've been working on that. Obviously, that's going to be a bigger episode as well. It's going to be a massive episode for me and Adam to talk about things as well. Probably the biggest episode we've done since the podcast launched as well. I'm currently working on another thing, which hopefully you'll see next week, depending on where times are. And then, hopefully again as well, just a little bit of a tease as well. Stay tuned for StrangeCast in September. We have a very special guest coming up on it. I'm not going to say who it is, but I think you'll enjoy it as well. I think I always enjoy talking to this person. They are coming back on this podcast, so stay tuned for that as well. I'm very excited. So hopefully we record with them next week, and that will be for StrangeCast, which will be episode 80. So we're about 21 episodes away from 100, which is mind-blowing. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining me again one more time as well. If you are new here, you just can't come to our YouTube channel, drop us a subscribe, turn notifications, like the video, and share with your friends. Hate saying it, but you know, very small channel as it is, and drop a like on the video as well before you leave as well. It is very much appreciated. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks to everyone who's been in the chat as well. EC, Jace, Matt, Delaney. Have I missed anyone? Just double checking. No, you got all of you as well. Thank you so much, and thank you for your messages as well. It's been really great to chat with you. And yeah, guys, take care. I'll catch you next week, hopefully the Lost Records Journal. Hope you're looking forward to watching.